And here we are once again. A very good morning to you. Well, it's morning for us. It might not be as you are watching this. Lovely to have you here. I'm Paul Rotherham, and welcome to another edition of the Coaching Hour. It's brought to you in proud partnership with Coaches Network South Africa. Now, today, if you enjoy sleep, we have a treat for you. We are joined today by somebody whose speciality, among other things, is sleep. And I'm so excited. I'm joined, as always, by Marika and Mary. Hello, ladies.
Hi, Paul.
Lovely to have you with us. I guess depending on what time of the day you are watching this, this could be either a more or less appropriate topic, because I was joking before we introduce our guest. I was joking with the ladies earlier saying, are we going to fall asleep during today's coaching hour? Because I have to be honest and put my hand up and say, I love sleep. It's my escape. Whenever I can sleep, to be honest, I do. I do a lot of physical activity as well, so I think it's justified. But I'm so in and really looking forward to what we have in line for today's coaching hour session and what we have, what Melonie at least has in store for us. Marika, you are going to introduce our sleep coach, as it were.
Yes, thank you, Paul. So Dr. Melonie Gobel is a multifaceted specialist wellness counselor and traditional medical practitioner, renowned for her expertise in emotional aromatherapy and optimal performance coaching. She's currently advancing her knowledge through a PhD, creating a natural deep sleep protocol. So Melonie is dedicated to enhancing the well-being of both the average Joe as well as high performance and professional athletes alike. So Paul, that's for you. She loves to share a holistic approach to achieve restorative sleep and living a balanced, vibrant life. So thank you so much, Melonie, for joining us today for this session. Before we get into today's topic, which is unlocking the secrets to better sleep, how did you get into this specific topic? Where did your passion start for this?
Well, unlike Paul, I'm not particularly a lover of sleep. So good morning, ladies. Good morning, Paul, and especially to the listeners and watchers. I got into this because it became a serious problem for me. I had seen my mom, who'd struggled so much with sleep through her life, and that caused a whole lot of other problems. Emotional well-being, she battled with her weight, and I didn't realize how interconnected it was until it got to the place where actually my mom was very, very ill. And when we went to the doctor, they did blood tests, they did a whole lot of things, and realized that my mother had got addicted not just to painkillers, but also to sleeping tablets. And so how can we help somebody who actually is one of the people I care about most in the world? So it started there, began to work on different protocols, work on, yes, the emotional well-being. Paul's right, he's active, he moves a lot, that's one of the keys. But also, especially for middle-aged women, menopause is sometimes a problem. Hormones is sometimes a reason they don't get to sleep. And then, interestingly enough, back in 2009, in March, a taxi T-boned my husband and my two sons on the way to school. And all three of them landed up in hospital on that day in ICU. And the doctor said to me, you need to prepare yourself because both your children could die today. And my one son suffered a traumatic brain injury, and part of the brain that was injured, actually, one of the things it did was manage sleep. And so at 13 years old, he was put on sleeping tablets. And fast forward to December 2020, when he saw what was happening in my mom and the changes, the positive changes that was happening. She didn't need sleeping tablets anymore. He came to me in December 2020 and he said, Mom, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to be taking sleeping tablets. And he had been doing that since 2009. And so here it was, two of the most precious people in my life, my treasures. I'd spent 30 years helping people, and some of them strangers, but that's my heart. I'm there to help people. And, as coaches around the room, that's our passion. We were born, we live, we breathe just to help people. But this isn't a stranger. These are two people two of the top 10 in my life that I care about. And so I said, I'll move heaven and earth, but I'll find solutions, natural solutions for you. And so we did that. And within 2 weeks, actually, my son using the protocol. So I tested it on myself. I tested it on my mother and my son and created this thing. Within 2 weeks, he was off of sleeping tablets. So let's just put the disclaimer out there. I'm not encouraging people to stop the medicine, okay? Speak to your doctors and your medical practitioners and do it in conjunction with them if you're wanting to come off of any medication that you're on. I think that's important to state. So it started as a very personal journey for me. I happened to live in a safe house for abused women and children. I started the program here in East London. And for 20 of those years, I lived for 14 of them in a safe house. So you can imagine, I had police coming in morning, noon, night, dropping off women and children in traumatic situations. So my sleep protocol was completely disrupted. And that was part of the reason I literally on average, 3.5 to 4 hours sleep a night. That's disaster waiting to happen. And so it's a very personal start of the journey for me. My own space, where now I can tell you I'm averaging 7 hours sleep a night. So it's almost double. I'm almost there. So yeah, my journey about sleep, it started because of my own challenges and people that I love challenges.
I think this is a familiar story to many, and I often consider myself really fortunate to be able to sleep because we take it for granted. Those of us who do put our heads on our pillows and fall asleep very quickly and have a good 7-8 hours over the weekend, maybe even more, we do take it for granted. And when we hear stories like yours, I think it makes us realize just how fortunate we are. But straight off the bat, I have a question, Melonie, and that is, how many people, you mentioned being on sleeping tablets, and it just got me thinking about how many people I know who use them like they use, I wouldn't quite say painkillers, but it's become commonplace. How, in your experience, how prolific is this where people are relying on medication to get sleep?
Well, it's actually an interesting question. And I'm very aware because I work in I want to say in the healthcare profession. I'm not slating the biomedical model at all. But my heart is really to support people more naturally so that they don't come to this point of being addicted to tablets. And I was asked to speak about sleep to a group of professionals, and there was a general practitioner in the room. He was a GP. We know each other. And I gave my talk about sleep and about natural sleep. And after he put his hand up, there was time for questions. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to be nailed now because I said exactly what I said now about sleeping tablets. And he said to me, Melonie, I don't have a question, but I've got a comment. And I was like, okay, shields up, engage shields. And he said, Melonie, why aren't you harder on the addiction of sleeping tablets? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, Melonie, do you know how dangerous sleeping tablets are? And on generally, you should not be taking sleeping tablets for longer than 5 nights because of the addictive nature. Now, I think all in this room and even people listening, we all know people who live on sleeping tablets, decades in and decades out. My mother was one of those. It's not solving the problem. Is it easy? No. But I think, and definitely, I'll be sharing some of the practical tips later on. But guess what? The value for you of coming off of that is so much better. Because you're not actually dealing with what the issue is. And there could be different reasons. There's not a one size fits all. But I think you've hit the nail on the head. We want a microwave. We're part of the microwave generation, whether it's instant coffee or whether it's instant popcorn or whatever it is, pop it in the microwave, press a button, it fixes it, it makes it right. And sleep is one of those. We've accepted, it's not the right mindset at all, but we've accepted, pop a pill and I can sleep. Well, actually, so much more is going on. And you are doing damage. You're sabotaging your wellness. Because I remember with my son being in that space for 11 years that he was using it, almost 12 years to the month. The interesting thing was he was like a zombie in the morning. And he had put on weight. If you look at the photos of before he started with the sleep protocol, he was overweight, he was like a zombie, and he was miserable. Why? Because he didn't change his lifestyle. And I think a lot of coaches, you'll be able to relate to this. We always talk about lifestyle. And we talk about the behavior and the actions that we need to do in order to achieve the goals that we need to. And with sleep, it's no different. Popping the pill might give you a very short term, yes, I'm desperate. And for those who may be in a desperate, acute stage right now, you need it. do it, take it if that's what you need, but long term, maybe put into position some actions, some behaviors actually that can really bring about meaningful change in your life. And who knows, maybe the sleep is just a symptom of something deeper.
There's a global resilience report that was done, I think 2022, where they've indicated that the number one factor of, a person's resilience is sleep quality. If we can maybe just touch on what is all the negative effects on the mind and the brain and concentration and those things because we don't get proper quality sleep, because most people don't.
No. It's interesting, and again, you're going to hear me say this probably a couple of times, but there's not an ideal you have to sleep X amount of hours, or because we're all different. Genetically, we're made up differently. So I'm not going to say you have to make sure you've got 8 hours sleep. Even as a child, I remember I used to wake up, doesn't matter whether it was weekend or holidays, I would be awake at 5 o'clock. I didn't even need to set an alarm. My body, whoop, I'm ready. And like the moment my eyes are open, it's like, whoop, let's go. You know what I'm saying? I'm not like, oh, let's lie in, let's do. No. I'm like, let's get up and go. So I don't need a truckload of sleep, but I've realized the value and the importance. So there's been studies done, and a lot of studies, in terms of significant academic research in terms of sleep and the impact of what it does. They did a study, for example, for 5 days of just less than 5 hours sleep. Okay, so I did this for 14 years and more, okay? But they just did it for 5 days because it would be unethical to put people under more and longer duration of less sleep. They found massive, significant differences in terms of the impact of the sleep. You're right, just your cognitive thinking, your ability to think clearly. We put, and we've got so much knowledge about, we know that alcohol actually slows your cognitive ability down. Guess what? Not enough sleep is as dangerous, actually, as drinking alcohol. Why? Because your whole system, you don't have the cognitive ability. That's why it's always strange. And I think we should be teaching. This should be part of life orientation because it's so important. In our schools, we should teach people about the significance. When we all studied, we can know that the students that did all-nighters, wow, we want to cram this in. Well, guess what? You're sabotaging your memory ability because your brain actually is doing so much work. This was mind-blowing for me. When we start looking, your brain and your body are actually doing so much critical work during sleep. So we think we go to sleep and everything just is calm. No, from an emotional perspective, what your brain is doing is your brain is almost like a factory that is going into a very good system, that they're unpacking certain boxes, that they're putting things into place, making sure your shelves emotionally are unpacked. So when you wake up in the day, everything is organized. It is stored. Your memories have been retrieved, put into special storage spaces. So think about this for a moment. We've all got cars, right? So I've got a RAV, and every 15,000 Ks, my RAV goes in for a service. So we're going to liken our bodies to our service with the RAV. So I take my car to Toyota, go right, there we go, first thing in the morning. They go, right, this afternoon at 4 p.m., you can fetch your vehicle. So that's fine. That's how long my service is going to be. But what if I come at 10 o'clock that morning and go, right, I'm fetching my RAV? They're going to go, are you stupid? I mean, we have not even started the basics yet. We've not even done deep dive. We go, no, I've got to take it. I've got stuff to do. I've got places to be. Well, what are we doing? We would never do that. We would never be so foolish to do that with our vehicle. But why are we doing it to our bodies? You see, that repairs and maintenance, that nightly service, as it were, is actually critical for optimal performance. So, Paul, this one's not for you. But for ladies particularly, we generally are trying desperately to lose weight and we're trying to be healthy. Well, guess what? The first place you can start to manage weight best and to lose weight, get a better night's sleep. It's that simple. And so just think about it emotionally. When people, and again, research, there's so much research available. If you are not getting enough sleep, you are more irritable, you're more frustrated, you're impatient, You actually, that beautiful patience and long suffering, it's disappeared. It's gone
Yeah.
into witness protection because it's not happening. So there's so much value and benefit. You would be functioning optimally if you get the right amount of sleep for yourself.
I have to jump in here, Melonie. We went camping this past weekend. It was 3 nights. And unfortunately, a new mattress that we bought was leaking, an air mattress.
Oh, yeah.
And what it required was Zena and myself to basically get up every 2 hours through the night and take turns in using a hand pump to inflate this mattress.
I can
And
see it.
after the first night, it was okay. I was a little bit irritable, but it was all right.
Yeah.
Second night, it was just this slippery slope. And to the point where when I woke up on Sunday, and it's interesting that you've said this scientifically, there's a basis for this. I was literally not myself. I was
Yeah.
irritated. The slightest of things was annoying me. And we spoke to Mary, who's obviously part of the coaching hour, and also my mother-in-law. And Mary was actually saying it was as if you return to your baby state. It's like the baby in you that can't get its own way comes out. Now,
Yeah.
I just want to park that for a minute, because what I would like to balance that with is I spent 3 years in the military, and you do basic training, or you did when I went in, you did basic training for about 3 months. And one of the protocols within the military back then, I don't think they do it now because it would probably be human rights violation, they
Yeah.
deprive you of sleep.
Yeah.
So they literally send you to bed on your first night at the base. They send you to bed at like 10 o'clock and they say, well done. It was a great first night or first day. Enjoy your sleep. We'll see you in the morning. You go to bed, and literally an hour later, just as everybody's dropped off,
Exactly.
they come in with
Yeah.
a pan and a huge ladle. Bang, 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 bang. And they wake you up at about 11 o'clock. So you
Yeah.
get up and you're kind of okay because you haven't really gone into a deep sleep. And then they give you some activities to do. You got to do whatever it is. And they say, okay, now you've done really well. And by now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. And now you can go back to sleep. And guess what? Then they wake you up again at about 2:30. Excuse me, 3. This goes on. I'm not joking. This goes on permanently. When you're awake during the day, you're awake and you get into it. But this went on for weeks. This wasn't just a few nights. Now, my question to you, as somebody who's got the expertise in this, is what is that doing to our bodies? Because I felt that I actually got used to it. I got used to this disturbed sleep to the point where everybody was lights out. When you went to bed, you were so exhausted, you were lights out. But when you woke up, no matter how much sleep you had, you were ready to go because you knew that there were consequences if you weren't ready. So,
Sure.
so my question is, are we just living in a really convenient, leisurely age where actually getting into a nice, cozy bed at night is almost a luxury? Are our bodies designed to sleep in that way? Or can we actually function with limited sleep, interrupted sleep? It's just, it's not convenient. It doesn't suit our modern living. What's your thoughts on that?
So if you look, let's go back a few hundred or a few thousand years before Eskom and load shedding. Let's do that. Okay. So before lights, when the darkness came, what would happen is that a message would go to your brain to say, release melatonin now. And as it's getting darker, so sun's going to set. I don't flick a switch. I don't do anything because that doesn't happen. And I go, oh, it's time for bed. And so we would then prepare for bed and we would go to sleep. What would happen is when the sun would rise, literally, again, messaging would be sent to your brain and it would like, wakey, wakey. And so you'd wake up. And so there would be this rhythm. So we're in this particular rhythm. We've changed that rhythm. Because think about it, and that's one of the things we can do is being aware of the light that we're exposing ourselves to, especially in the last hour that we go to sleep. No, I think it was in the 80s or the 90s. Remember, they brought out those dimmer switch lights, Those are amazing, actually. And in the last hour, if you can, lovely little tip, actually start turning the lights down. You don't want bright lights because years past, you could actually buy melatonin over the counter. Now you have to have a prescription to buy melatonin, okay? But your body can produce it naturally. You just need to give it the space and the right environment to do that. Can we function like you did and like thousands of others have done, whether it's in the military or let's think about people who are doing shift work now, nurses, doctors, police, fire people, all of those. They have learned, and that's how amazing our miracle bodies are, to function in the space that it is. So you're going to get used to it. You're going to create a new rhythm for your body. But does it mean it's an optimal performance? No. So, and I found that I was performing because the Safe House was only one of our 6 projects that we're doing, our community project. So I was doing a normal day's work in the day. I was doing studies on top of that. Then at night, I would have my sleep disrupted, and I'd work probably till about 1 o'clock in the morning because I had a home office as well. And so that's what I would do. I functioned well. But what I didn't realize is actually I was sabotaging long-term sustainability and long-term health. Another thing that we don't realize is actually sleep is a very, very important part of our immune boosting and self-defense mechanism. So your defense force in your body actually is compromised when you don't sleep well. So think about that. With your camping trip, if you had extended that for a little bit longer, you might find, oh, my throat is a little bit of a thing, or I'm just not feeling right. Why? Because you didn't give your body the time that it needed for its, I want to say, standard repair and maintenance program that it needs to do. So you will find your immune system is compromised because of a lack of sleep. And then you have a vicious cycle. So there is an emotional element to it. There can be a hormonal element to it. Sometimes it's your environment. In the Safe House, not one of the hundreds of people we had over those years in the Safe House program, not one slept with the light off. So light does play a role. Yes, you'll go to sleep, obviously because of the trauma of what they were suffering, okay? And you understand that. But from a sleep perspective, most of them had horrific sleep patterns. So it wasn't just the emotional trauma, it was also the fact that they've got their light on. So you're not going into a deep sleep. And we've got phases of sleep. So there are a lot of best practice and what ideally you can position yourselves. And as I say, over the last couple of years, when people have made a tiny tweak here and there, they can bring significant positive changes in. And then it becomes a, wow, I've got energy, or I don't feel, my body actually feels it's better equipped. My mind, a lot of people, and they blamed it on COVID. And there is a level of that, but brain fog, you know, you can also get brain fog, but just because you don't get enough sleep, and feeling like you literally in like a zombie world, not being fully functional. So there's a lot of things to it. Unfortunately, because we're so adaptable, we get used to it, and that's exactly what you did. But optimally, that's not the best for us to do. No.
Now, Melonie, if you would like to share with us a few practical things, you know, that we can start using to naturally fall asleep maybe better, or to start changing those habits, because I guess it's also about habits. Scrolling on
Yes.
Facebook, you know, until you fall asleep, those type of habits, which is also like a light, you know, artificial light. What practical tips would you have for the listeners to start improving their sleep?
100%. So number one is create a routine. I think if that's the first and foremost thing, consistent routine. So Paul said an interesting thing earlier in terms of he gets a lot of good sleep, and especially more over the weekends. So if you look at top sleep gurus, they will tell you consistent sleep. So generally, whether you are on a weekday or on a weekend, whether you're on holiday or you're working, you should wake up at the same time every single day and go to bed at the same time. So I want to say I'm a living experiment of this, okay? And it works. In the beginning, it's you've got to stop and let's go back, put our coaching hats on for a section, for just a moment. Our coaching hats. Why do you want better sleep? What will it mean to you? And so you need to really harness that. For me, it was emotional well-being. I've got a lot to do. So I want to be op it, you know, goeie Afrikaanse woord. Ek wil op it wees. And to be op it, I've got to have my full cognitive abilities. I've got to be in optimal space. That means the world to me, because I'm serving other people. I can't be vertraag over there. So what I need to do is I need to be the best version of myself. To do that, I need to improve my sleep. I'm not coping. I literally, for 30 years of my life, woke up with a headache every day of my life. Part of that was sleep. my poor sleep habits. I had migraines 2 to 3 a week. There are times I had to go and have an injection just for them to take away the pain. Okay. That was complete habit lifestyle. So what I'm saying is from 3.5 hours average sleep to 7 hours, you can develop it. If I could do it, anybody could do it. So I've been through the hell. You don't have to go through the hell. We save you. We'll give you a recipe for best success. And the best way to describe it is today we're going to share a couple of wonderful pointers, practical pointers. So if you can grab a pen and paper, that would be ideal. Or just listen to the podcast again and just go through it. It's almost going to be, I'm offering you a buffet today. So you go into the buffet and you might have your favorite pieces. You know, I love this, or no, I don't like that. Okay. Start with positive action, one positive thing, and begin to implement that consistently. So the first and foremost is consistent sleep routine. Ideally, and for some people this is going to blow your minds, but ideally you don't really want to be going to bed later than 10 o'clock at night. So that's almost 10 o'clock, lights out. Okay. So let's just do a quick thing. Paul, what time do you normally go to bed? Average, and then Mary, Mareka afterwards? What time?
Sure. For me, it's varied over the last little while because I ran Comrades, and as part of Comrades, one of the top tip that was given by the coaches, it plugs straight into today's podcast, was be in bed by 10 at the absolute latest. And I made a habit of that while I was doing my training for Comrades. Comrades is in June. Once that's out the way, I find myself slipping a little bit. Like you, I do a lot of things business-wise, so I'm always tinkering with things. I run an online store that I manage, and that often takes up my time. So I find life is almost dictating my sleep, where I think it should be the other way around. But I would say realistically, probably between 10 and 11 most nights. Occasionally there's a midnight, but not very often because I like my sleep.
Okay, great. Mary, for you? Unmute
Mary.
I do my best to go to sleep before 9 because I believe that between 9 and 10, your body starts to regenerate cells.
Yeah. Okay, so that's brilliant. You're in the right place. Mareka, for you?
Yeah, I also started sleeping around between 9 and 10 these days. I don't like to go to bed after 10 because I can actually feel the difference the next day. If I went to bed at 10:30 or 11, then I'm terrible. Then I'm vertraag the next morning, and I don't like that.
100%.
And
100%.
what time are you both up? Because obviously it's very different. If you're going to bed at that time and getting up at 5, that's different to going to bed at that time and getting up at 7.
Yes, I get up at 5.
Mary?
Well, every single night I wake up 2:30 for some reason. And that's when
Melonie will tell you why.
Ideas come to me and I start writing the ideas, things that, it's like innovations and ideas and quotes and things like that come to me that time of the morning. And then once I've written them down, I go back to sleep. There's no problem. And then I wake up between 5 and 7.
So you've created your own circadian rhythm, and you're flourishing in that space, and that's wonderful. And interestingly, a lot of people when they get older, and I'm not suggesting you're old, Mary, but a lot of people when they get older actually tend to find they need a little bit less sleep, and so you actually flourishing in that space in your life. So what I would encourage you, and I'm very happy, Mareka's got my cell number. If you reach out to me, I'm happy to send you a sleep diary. So Mareka, we can always maybe send it through to you, and you can pop it onto the Facebook
Yes, please.
Allow them to download it. So what you need to do is you need to start tracking your sleep to better understand what the impact on your own space. So it's very simple. You'll spend about 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes just before you go to sleep, and then 5 minutes when you wake up. And you can start tracking, well, what time did I eat last night? Because what time you eat does and can impact it. So it's great. We know Paul is exceptionally good in terms of his training, etc., etc. So training and getting physical is another one key thing that you can do. But actually, when do you do training? Because that can also impact. So we'll touch on that just now, okay? But it's not just, yes, I do training. If I do training too close to bedtime, or if I go to gym, for example, at 8 o'clock at night, I've actually revved my body up. My body is not now in a position to let's go to La La Land. So what I found is this little sleep diary is actually such a beautiful tool. It's such a simple tool. And all you do is you go, okay, this is for some people, they have a high intolerance to caffeine, for example. So when I'm drinking my last cup of coffee, or if I've had too much coffee, that can impact. So genetically, I've got a high tolerance to caffeine, funnily enough, okay? But my son doesn't. So he cannot drink a cup of coffee after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It affects him. Some people, all they can do, I've had clients that literally, they have their first cup of coffee in the morning and they don't drink another cup because they won't sleep that night. So there's a whole lot of things, but you start having a self-awareness of what is it? What is my sleep doing? And it's like a thermometer. You know, I'm measuring the temperature of my sleep, but I'm also seeing what actions did I do that day that actually could have impacted it. So when I did my PhD research, it was interesting because I had a professional athlete who happened to be one of my sleep participants. And so he tracked his sleep for 14 days. But when he did the thing, it was actually in December. So he played his sport, and so he was very good. I mean, he's like a little OCD with the way he does it, and his sleep, etc. But December, it was somebody's wedding, and so he had the bachelor party, and he had about 11 drinks. And obviously, he put in his sleep diary 11 drinks, and then to see how he slept. So alcohol and actually nicotine also affect your sleep. And so he was able to see all for 14 days, 2 of those days, and the one day that he didn't sleep well happened to be the bachelor's party, and the other day was the day of the wedding, because obviously he was also drinking there. So alcohol certainly affected him, and alcohol could be a lot of people under the myth that actually they sleep better when they've drank alcohol. So some people have got to have my glass of wine. Well, interestingly enough, and scientifically, it shows that you probably will fall asleep quicker if you've had a drink, but your body's in overload, so your body's going to wake up and you are going to have more broken sleep. So we're under the misconception that alcohol helps. So I'm offering you the sleep diary. You're welcome, and to use it, and it's your tool. If you use it effectively, you can quickly start seeing a pattern of what you're doing and how it impacts, can be positive and can be negative, moving. Another tip is get moving. Now, for older women like myself, you know, it's harder to move now. I'm not a gym person. Mareka and I were chatting earlier. I've got 5 dogs, okay? 4 German Shepherds and a Husky. They crazy, but they keep me on my toes. And so I move with my dogs. I live on a small holding. We walk around my small holding. I don't need gym. But what my encouragement is, get moving. Another little tip is a lot of people are going, yeah, but I'm in the office all day, etc. Do you know what? They allow people smoking breaks. So just take a smoking break. Don't smoke, but take a smoking break. I'm going to have my smoking break and walk around the park. You know, walk around the parking lot if that's all you've got. And the other encouragement is be in the sunshine. Take a nachi or an orange. Go and eat your orange while you're walking in the parking lot. Don't make excuses. Just get moving. So you can have like a 10-minute in the morning and a 10-minute in your lunchtime and a 10-minute in the afternoon. Little power walking. People might think you're crazy, but who cares? I once had to wait in an airport and I thought, I haven't got my steps in today. Actually, I walked around the airport parking lot. The security guard thought I was nuts, but I don't care. I got my steps in that day. So use what you've got. Don't make excuses. Why? Because that's how important it is. If you're a gym person, go for it. But remember, you don't want to be VUCAing your body up a couple of hours before you go. So watch what you eat, and when you eat it, you don't want to be eating a heavy load on your gut when you're going to sleep, because then you're going to be putting an overload. And don't do VUCA. Now, so saying, there's a beautiful, especially if you're more like me, Fabulous 50s. It's a YouTube channel. This amazing trainer, she's over 50 and she does gentle stretching. So if you like me and we're not into the aerobics and all the crazy gym stuff, that's fine. We can do slow stretches. That's beautiful. Stretching, people who are into Pilates and yoga, that's beautiful to do. Why? Because it's winding your body down. It's sending the right messaging. So that's very, very important. If you can, make sure that you're eating more. And Mareka was saying, I think Mareka and Mary are on a fruit diet at the moment and a fruit way of life. That's excellent, okay? You don't want too greasy, fatty, oily, or too much sugar, because all of those are going to negatively impact your sleep. It does. It's crazy to think that. But did you know that actually, and I didn't say it, so I want to say it here, sleep affects every single one of your body systems. And that's why it's important that we're addressing this topic. Why? Because if you are battling in some of your body systems, you could just better be supporting it just by addressing your sleep. Another free tip for you is grounding. So my front door faces east. So every morning, I love it in summer because the sun already starts coming out about 4:30 in the morning. I let my dogs out. I go stand on the ground. If you can do this 10 minutes a day, you know, we're full of electrical charges in our body. Just by standing and earthing yourself in the ground, I look to where the sun is rising. I close my eyes, and what I'm doing is, I'm just grateful in that moment. Do you know how powerful gratitude is? And I know that you've had visitors and sharing about the power of gratitude. But here I am, earthing my body in bare feet. I'm looking at the sun, closing my eyes to protect but I'm being grateful for something. And what that's doing, the light is going into my brain, even though my eyes are closed. It's going, woo, wake up. We've got it. We into the day with new energy. So that's free. It's easy. Go for it. So we spoke about caffeine. You don't want to be having caffeine too late, but having a herbal tea actually is beautiful. And if you want to do this, so we're saying, so Mary, for you, you're going to make this an hour earlier, okay? But if you want to have a little herbal cup of tea, my favorites are rooibos, obviously, or even a rosehip tea. And I love a little drop of, I don't even use one drop. I literally take a toothpick and I put it into my Roman chamomile essential oil, and I literally stir the toothpick, so it's not even a drop, into my rooibos tea or my rosehip tea. Now, please make sure when you use your essential oils, make sure it is the 100% that you actually can be. It's tested so that it's pure, not just because it says pure on the bottle, because not all essential oils are created equal. That's important for us to know. So I do that. The fragrance is incredible. It's calming. It's absolutely magnificent in a beautiful way if you're wanting something warm to drink, especially in our cold evenings. And you can even use lavender with that. Now, this is the big one. If there's nothing else you take from our time together, this is the biggie. It's probably the most challenging. I'm going to say that. It was my hardest one. So, Paul, coming back to you, I was exactly like you, and work. Make sure I answered all the messages, the emails, the Facebook, the social media, all of this. 1 hour before you plan to go to bed. So for Mary, that's 9. For Mareka, Paul, and I, it's 10. You actually switch off. This is so important. Why? So I've got an alarm that goes off at 5 to 9 every single night. Beep, 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 beep. And I know I have 5 minutes to finish whatever I'm doing. No more tablet, no more computer, no more cell phone, nothing. Switch it off. Why? Because the light in that device actually is going, woo, let's party in your brain. And what you so did, your body is like going, I want to go home. Your brain's going, woo, let's party. No, you need to switch it off. And it's important because you actually are activating parts of your brain. And so you are actually causing quite a challenge in your body because you are not giving your body the space it needs. So that golden hour, it must almost become, so everybody knows. So as a counselor, sometimes you're on call more like 24/7, right? But everybody knows, unless it's an emergency, at 9 o'clock, after 9, you're not going to get me. Okay. So that's my general rule. I have it on mute. I have it on silent. And for those of us who've got smart watches, okay, make sure it's not even doing it at night. I made the mistake. And suddenly my arm was going beep, 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 in the middle of the night. Like, no, you're actually sabotaging yourself. So make sure it's silent. It's not going to do anything. And preferably not even in your room. That's important. Okay. So that's the one that actually makes the most difference. And in fact, out of all my participants in my study, okay, and this is mind-blowing, all of my participants did exactly what they were supposed to do for those 14 days, okay? So they didn't touch their cell phones or television or whatever for that last hour, except one. So it was interesting because when we did the talk first, she was battling with a lot of things. She had a lot of pain. She was experiencing a lot of emotional challenges. And so I said, okay, tell me about you. No, her husband has a television in the bedroom and it's on all night. So I'm like, okay, can you maybe just have a discussion? I mean, if I spoke to my husband and I said, listen, I'm doing a sleep study and this lady thinks that it can help me, less pain, actually maybe I have the ability to cope more. I think it's going to help me. Would you mind sacrificing just for 14 days? If it doesn't work, no problem. Well, guess what? He refused. And so that television stayed on those 14 nights. She improved a little, but the difference for her was not as significant as the rest. And again, for me, I was sad because that was the one person actually that needed it the most. And the only thing she did differently was the fact that her husband refused to put the television. So the sound and the light, obviously, with the television, the television literally is doing this all night. And so that is impacting. She cannot enjoy a better sleep with that. So what are you doing this last hour? Have I got time just to share what we do in the last hour? Is that okay?
We've got a minute.
Okay. 1 minute in the last hour. Do what feeds your soul in this space. I mentioned you can do stretching. I mentioned for me, when 9 o'clock goes, I go through to my bedroom. I do my face. I wash my face. My husband and I, we connect. We literally chat about what was the good thing about the day, what's preparing. Do not have heavy discussions after 9 o'clock at night. That's like a sin, okay? Do not do that. You don't want to get all hyped up emotionally. No. If there's a serious discussion, you go, let's park that and let's come in the morning with fresh eyes and come with a better spirit with it, okay? Let's chat over a cup of coffee. Now, this is important. You can do a massage for those who have partners. Do a massage. It's wonderful for both of you. You can experience body, mind, and spirit. It's a wonderful way to connect. And sometimes it leads to other things, which is even also great for sleep, okay? The only thing you should leave in your bedroom, you should only be on your bed for 2 things, sleep and intimacy. That's it. Don't work on your bed. Don't bring a whole lot of other things to bed. This is the time just for your connection and your space. This is a beautiful time that I incorporate essential oils in it because it helps physically and physiologically and emotionally. And so this is a beautiful golden hour that literally then prepares you for the best night's sleep. So I want to encourage you, there is so much more. And obviously each one of you that's listening or watching, you are unique and you're individual. Choose one thing from here, implement, and then maybe choose another thing and implement. And you, like me, can double your sleep, not just time, but the quality and the value. And let me tell you, you'll be energized for a great day further. Thank you so much.
I love your passion, Melonie. I don't think I have ever heard anyone speak about sleep with such passion and enthusiasm, and that's it's really wonderful to hear. And I think having somebody on who knows something is always good on this show, but it's even better when there's a passion behind that. And obviously that comes from a place where you had to find a solution given your son and your mom. And I hope that that everyone in the family recovered after that terrible accident. I hope that everybody is now doing well. Thank you for joining us.
I'm glad to see you didn't fall asleep, Paul. So
no. I was really enjoying everything that you said, and we've said this many times on the coaching hour that so often the information that is shared is not necessarily new to us. But I think what's always special about our guests, which you are today, is that each guest has a different way of bringing those topics across, and just how you speak and the way that you did it has definitely made sense. I'm certainly guilty of not having regular sleep in the sense of going to bed at a certain time. And I also go to bed very often with my mind still racing because I literally work up until 5 minutes before I'm in bed. I'm working in my pajamas, the laptop gets closed, I lock up the Lego room, and boom, I jump into bed. And I'm learning that it is important to have that winding down period. So that's what I took out of today. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I will still be enjoying my Saturday afternoon nap because that for me
All
is
good.
wonderful. It's one of the joys of the weekend is being able to have a little nap on a Saturday afternoon. I get up quite early for park runs, so to have an afternoon nap is wonderful. I can't really do that during the week. But thank you for sharing. And I would imagine, Marika, we'll put all the details in the video link in the description and all of those good
Yes.
things. Yes?
Yes, we'll do that.
So,
Wonderful.
Melanie, Marika, can we have Melanie back? Because there's a lot of things I'd like to ask her. None
No,
of time.
we can definitely have Melonie again. I think there's a lot still to discuss.
Yes,
For
thank you so
sure.
much.
To the
Thank you.
3 M's, Mary, Marika, and Melonie, thank you very much. This is P saying goodbye. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to your company in the next edition of the Coaching Hour. Bye for now.